is my neighbor? Every soul who lives upon the earth. I have been called to treat each one with dignity and worth, working for justice, seeking peace, and cultivating care, offering hope to those whose lives are laden with despair. When I can ease another's pain, I know I'll do my part. When I can bring another joy, I'll open up my heart. When I have more than someone else, I'll share the things I can. When I am tempted to be cruel, I'll strive to understand. Who is my neighbor? Earth itself and all the beings there. Flora and fauna, fish and fowl, the trees that grace the air. River and prairie, sea and sky, I honor and respect. These are my neighbors, these I vow to cherish and protect. Oh, may we build a world where all have everything they need. May we be free from hate and fear, from violence and from greed. May our lives be tributes to compassion, love, and trust, till we are kin to all the world, and all are kin to us.
Good morning. It is a very good morning this morning. I think we have another week of meeting at this time, and then we'll go into summertime and be meeting at 9 in the morning instead of 10. So make sure you check your calendars. July is when we go to the 9 a.m. meeting time. Welcome to the live and in-person and live Zoom worship service for the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Our opening hymn this morning is number 396. I know this rose will open, from the gray hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 396. I know this rose will open.
I know this rose will open. I know my fears will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fears will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Thank you for joining us here in person. And those of you who are at home, thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom. where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on our YouTube channel for our virtual attendees. I'm Tinka Friend, a member of the worship committee, and I will be your worship associate today, along with my husband, Nick Williams. Other members of the worship committee who make this service possible include Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam Wediging, who monitors our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system and adjusting the fans. Thank you. Thank you. For sound reasons, thanks. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices. Please, if you're here in the sanctuary with us. I hope everyone had a good summer solstice. I know several people gathered at Pat Kawunder's house for drumming and fellowship. We thoroughly enjoyed watching the full strawberry moon rise up over the trees in her backyard. We're lucky she's talking about having pool parties this summer. And now we invite you to leave your worries and your defenses at the door and trust that what happens in worship is inspiring and powerful. Together, we affirm that this day and our being together here can make each of us braver, more compassionate, more understanding, and wiser as we begin a new day and a new week. Before we move into the service, Nick will share a few announcements with you. We will mention several websites, email addresses, and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all of this information, and it is available on our website.
Very important announcement. Starting July 7th, all services during the month of July and August will start an hour earlier, 1 hour earlier. That means they will begin at 9 a.m. So don't forget, just reiterating, this is because our historical building finished in 1892 has no air conditioning. This way we can be out of the building and back in our air-conditioned cars and homes by midday. Next Sunday is the final week in June, so this time change will start in 2 weeks, July 7th. For the same reason, our usual first Sunday luncheons will be suspended during the months of July and August. No first Sunday luncheons, July and August. Joys and Concerns, July 7th, the first Sunday of the month, will also be the time where we share joys and concerns. William Bill Rowe, a beloved member of our church, recently passed away and will be greatly missed. Please join us in the church sanctuary on Saturday, July 6th at 11 a.m. to honor and celebrate the rich, full life of William Rowe. A reception will follow in the parish hall. This concludes our announcements for today. I want to say welcome to all our visitors today and welcome back to our old friends. We would love to meet you during coffee hour after the service. If you're comfortable doing so, please give us a wave so we can recognize you later. Any visitors? We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, where you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you were here, and leave your contact information. if you want updates on church events. There will also be a short discussion after the service to share our reflections on the sermon. For those on Zoom, you can use the Zoom wave gesture or just wave at your camera. The best way to get added to the mailing list is to email the church office at admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. Anybody waving, Adam? Okay. Thank you. Call to worship.
And now I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability.
Good morning. Our speaker today will be Tinka Friend and Nick Williams. Tinka Friend is a longtime member of our church. She spent her professional life as an elementary teacher for special needs children. She has a BA in psychology and a master's in education with an emphasis in special education. She also has 3 teaching certificates, one for general education children, one for learning handicapped children, and one for severely handicapped children. Tinka taught students ranging from 3 to 13 years of age with various special needs. For almost 40 years, she put herself in the position of an advocate for the students she worked with. She found herself drawing on those experiences when writing this sermon. Her husband, Nick Williams, has also been a longtime member here since 1966. I'm sorry, 1996, not that long. He has served in various leadership capacities and currently serves on the Social and Environmental Justice Committee and the Worship Committee. You often see him as a worship associate on Sunday mornings. Nick worked for over a decade with special needs high school students as a one-on-one instructional aide, helping them to be able to access the public school experience.
Thank you, Grace. Working with students who have severe problems can be very complicated, very frustrating, and very exhausting. Even though we each strive to find love and the inherent worth and dignity in each person, there may be times in which we fail. Nick and I will share one of our failures and what we have learned as a result.
Occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. We have 2 lightings of sacred flames. The first is a remembrance candle for the Indigenous peoples whose traditional territories are now occupied by this sacred space and who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. The spot we occupy was originally the sovereign space of the Cahuilla, the Capeño, and the Serrano, and others. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of the sacred and holy place. Our second sacred flame is our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We are blessed with this space and opportunity to strive and live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey and worship together. Today's chalice lighting words are from A Lifelong Sharing, number 562 in our gray hymnal by Mother Teresa. A lifelong sharing. Love cannot remain by itself. It has no means. It has no meaning. Love has to be put into action, and that action is service. Whatever form we are, able or disabled, rich or poor, it is not how much we do, but how much love we put into the doing. A lifelong sharing of love with others. Our next hymn, We'll Build a Land. Number 121 from the gray hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing number 121, We'll Build a Land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garments instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land
Our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished in several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and in the newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater grocery cards, which we will have in the church each Sunday. Amazon gift cards are also available. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Kate Lewicki or Robert Braun in the church office if you are interested in purchasing the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works best for you. Thank you for your generosity. To those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. And to all who have joined us here today, thank you for the gift of your presence. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? A bag will also be passed around to collect food and hygiene items for those in need. Our next hymn is number 1010. We give thanks from the Teal hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn number 1010, We Give Thanks.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
For today's meditation, I'm going to lead you in a guided meditation that I wrote for this service. So please make sure that you're sitting comfortably. I want you to scan your body and relax any places where you find that you are holding on to tension. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. Feel your breathing. as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Feel your breath. Look into yourself, into your past. Is there someone that you had difficulty with? It could be a person still living or a person who has passed away. Is there a relationship that was particularly difficult for you? Someone that was hard to love? A partner? A family member? A colleague? A boss? A teacher? If so, hold an image of that person in your mind. If you have had no such person in your life, or if it feels too uncomfortable for you to imagine that person, just sit comfortably and focus on your breathing and relax your body during the rest of this meditation time. Breathe deeply and release any tightness. Feel your body relax. In your mind, create a gift that represents love. A bouquet of flowers, chocolates, a hug, whatever you would feel comfortable giving to this person or receiving from this person. Breathe deeply and release any tightness. Feel your body relax. You may choose to give your gift to the person in your mind, or you may have the person give the gift to you. Let's see that transaction in your mind. Breathe deeply and release any tightness. Feel your body relax. Whichever way the gift went, smile at that other person. If there was anything you wish that person would have said to you, imagine him or her saying it to you now. Breathe deeply and release any tension and tightness. Feel your body relax. If you feel like reaching out to make contact with this person, a hug, a touching of hands, a pat on the back, do so now in your mind. Breathe deeply and release any tightness. Feel your body relax. Say goodbye to this person. You may want to wish them well. Breathe deeply and release any tightness. Feel your body relax. Slowly return your attention back to this room, back to this service. And after one last deep breath, open your eyes and join us for the next part of today's service. In the first sermon that I gave about love in the complicated places, I was reacting to the writing of Reverend Jo Von Rue as she shared about being a poor, needy child and how lucky she was that her fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Fong, stepped right into an uncomfortable and complicated situation instead of avoiding it, concerning Jo's lack of personal hygiene. At the time, Jo was extremely embarrassed and uncomfortable when Mrs. Fong, who we were told, was a formidable woman who did not tolerate any shenanigans. Mrs. Fong told Jo that she smelled and needed to start using deodorant. However, as an adult, Reverend Jo saw this as an act of love in a complicated place. For the rest of that sermon, I shared my experiences dealing with many special needs students who lived in poverty and trying to help them learn about personal dental, physical, and mental health. I also shared that navigating through those complicated places in my class wasn't as difficult as having to navigate around my principal, who felt that those complicated places had no business at school. In this sequel, the focus is going to be on the difficulty of finding that love for certain students in difficult, complicated places. When dealing with students and their special needs, things can become very complicated very quickly. The farther the students are from the norm, the more complicated it is, the more tiring it is, and the more difficult it is to find that love and to hold it. Nick and I have both worked in Corona Norco Unified School District in special education. I as an elementary teacher and Nick as a secondary one-on-one instructional aide. Both of us struggled from time to time trying to find that love in complicated places with complicated students or their parents. While we were often able to exemplify that love, there were times when we were unsuccessful. So we will each share one failure that we experienced and what we've learned as a result. Nick will start with his experience first.
Let me tell you about Randall. Randall, the TS. TS, total student. TS, talented student. TS, terrific student. TS, terrible student. TS, Tourette's syndrome. Tourette's syndrome, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a neurological disorder characterized by involuntary tics and vocalizations and are often the compulsive utterances of obscenities. Fuck you! Sorry, that's my Tourette's, he would say with a bit of a smirk on his face. Now, Randall used a different F word and a different finger. He did this often in class, sometimes many times in the middle of a classroom hour. Who was Randall? Not his real name, by the way. Randall was a tall, lanky 11th grader with a mischievous smile. He was an intelligent student who knew what was going on around him. He didn't like schoolwork unless it was something that interested him. like things to do with history or World War II. He really liked explosions. I was his instructional assistant for close to a whole school year. I didn't know much about Tourette's when I was given this assignment. In fact, I wasn't given much information about Randall at all, other than he was a difficult student with some extreme disruptive behaviors, and the other aides had all quit. I was a substitute one-on-one aide for students with special needs. The special ed department placed me with Randall because I had experience with difficult students and I had never given up on an assignment. First thing I did was to gather information about working with students with Tourette's syndrome. For the first month or so, I had a point system set up so he could earn weekly and sometimes daily rewards based mainly on his behavior, not necessarily on completed assignments. My job was to try and contain his more disruptive displays of objectionable bodily functions while trying to help him recognize and change these behaviors. He would often disrupt the teacher's instructions with loud shouting and obscenities. He would put his hand down the back of his pants between his buttocks cheeks, bring his hand out, and sniff his fingers loudly and repetitively, announcing, "Oh, sorry, that's my Tourette's." He would fart repeatedly, explosively, for up to an hour. According to the nurse, he had this ability to suck air up into his rectum and expel it back out with force. She alluded to the idea that it served some sexual function for him. Sadly, I was unable to change any of these behaviors. The best it ever got was me removing him from the classroom, often winding up in the bathroom where I had to stay with him and direct other students to go to another bathroom during our passing periods. We didn't want to give him an audience to his behavior. Unfortunately, our relationship slowly deteriorated over time. As he moved from one bad behavior to another, I would come up with a series of strategies to stop him. We became more adversarial and less willing to be cooperative. My patience diminished on a daily basis. Regrettably, as time went on, I became tired and irritable over the constant conflicts and confrontations. Also, as his behavior got worse, he needed more supervision. So my workday with him was extended to an extra hour, beginning the minute he was off the bus to the minute he got on the bus at the end of the day. I was becoming exhausted, and it was difficult to keep my emotions in check. I was approached to ride the bus with him, but this I turned down. I knew that starting this way would only make the rest of the day worse. I couldn't endure adding another hour with him. I had lost the ability to see the young person and student at the core of the oppositional behaviors. I could no longer find love in this complicated place. I wanted out. I thought it would be best for him and for me. I asked the administration to replace me, but they begged me to stay on, as I was still the best aide they had ever seen with him, and I had lasted the longest of any of my previous aides. I agonized over the situation that Randall and I found ourselves in, but there didn't seem to be anyone with any better ideas. Miraculously, we both made it to the end of the school year and parted ways. I wish I would have realized that the school administration really only wanted Randall contained. They wanted him on campus, in or out of the classroom, it didn't matter. They just didn't want him disrupting the educational process of the other students. Basically, they wanted a babysitter. I wanted more for him than just that. but I didn't know how to do it. That was at the beginning of my years as an aide, and I still had a lot to learn. I've always looked back and felt bad about my inability to find a better way of dealing with Randall. I wish I could have come from a kinder, more caring place. Relationships are complicated, and one does the best one can. I can now look back and see where I could have made some different choices, and that those different choices would have improved the situation. But that perspective comes with many more years of teaching and dealing with a lot more children. I often wondered what happened to Randall, what became of him, what his life is like now. I hope Randall found someone that was able to help him more than I was, someone who found the love in his complicated place.
I'm sharing a situation that was so complicated, so unsettling, so frightening, that I was just not able to put the students' needs above my own. And it wasn't the student's fault. Let's call the student Mike, not his real name. Mike was a severely emotionally disturbed young man that had been excluded from attending a middle school because of his behaviors. The administration had tried various things: suspension, alternative class placement, ACP, Saturday school, and finally, they placed him on homeschooling. Students can be placed on home teaching for a variety of reasons, and not just because of behavior. And in fact, medical or physical reasons are the most common. Frail children, children recuperating from surgery, chemotherapy, accidents, and so forth. They are given a list of assignments that they are missing, and a credentialed teacher is assigned to work with them at their home for a total of 5 hours a week. Accepting this extra assignment of homeschooling is voluntary, and the teacher does get paid for mileage and the extra hours worked. Because the teacher does this after their workday is finished, the parents and the teacher together decide whatever schedule works best for them. It's usually in the evening, and it is not a respite or babysitting time. Parents have to stay in the house with their child. Of course, they don't have to be in the same room as the teacher and the student. They can move around their house. Mike was not a current nor a former student of mine. He was an 8th grader in Norco, and I was teaching elementary emotionally disturbed children in Corona at the time. The district was having difficulty finding a teacher to accept this assignment. I had been asked and declined because I wasn't really familiar with secondary curriculum. I was elementary. But a month later, after the special education director personally came to see me and asked me to please take this assignment, I agreed. This was in 1980 or 81, and I had only been teaching a few years. After speaking with Mike's mother about the job and working out a weekly schedule, it was decided that I would work with him twice a week. He already had all of his textbooks at home, and I got a list of his assignments for the next month from his middle school teacher, who had declined the offer to teach him homeschooling. I and his mother exchanged phone numbers to keep in touch if one of us had to cancel a session. Remember, 1980, this was before cell phones. It was a long way to his house. It was a 30-mile round trip for me. They lived way out in the dairy country of Norco, which doesn't exist anymore. That's now Northeast Vale on the way to the Ontario airport. There were some paved streets, but no street lighting. Their house was isolated with no neighbors nearby. Mike lived with his mother and 2 siblings, a 17 or 18-year-old brother and an older sister who was out of school and was working nights. I had received no information about his siblings, but after a few weeks, I could tell that the older brother exhibited terrible behavior towards Mike and towards his mother. And his mother made no attempt to stop that behavior. Compared to his brother, Mike's behavior didn't seem too bad. I mean, except for when Mike's brother was bothering him, Mike's behavior was definitely manageable. And for several months, all was fine. Then one night, while Mike and I were working at the kitchen table, their phone rang, the house phone. His mother then came in to tell me that Mike's sister was sick at work and needed to be picked up. Mom would go into Corona and get her and be right back. I knew, I wasn't quite sure how to handle this because I knew that the parent was supposed to stay in the home during the teaching sessions. But I told myself she isn't going to be gone very long, and I still had an hour more to work with Mike. So we continued on. The session went well until Mike's brother came into the kitchen. He started humming, rummaging around in drawers. Then he started singing loudly and clanging the silverware around in the drawers. And then he started laughing very loudly and taking out all of the big sharp knives and laying them out onto the counter. I told myself, he's just trying to scare me. He's trying to get a reaction. I have dealt with that before. I'd even had a father who was in Hell's Angels intimidate me with a knife during a parent-teacher conference. I could handle this. So I just ignored the brother and I went over some more instructions with Mike. Mike stopped listening to me and started yelling at his brother to get out. You're not supposed to be in the kitchen while I'm working with my teacher. She's my teacher. Stop it. Leave us alone. His brother had one knife in each hand and was swinging them around like ninja weapons. I loudly told both of them to be quiet and stop it. Mike stood up and started cussing at his brother. His brother lunged at Mike with a butcher knife in his hand, laughing and chasing him around the table several times, going behind me as I was seated at the table. Finally, using my most authoritative, loud teacher voice, I got them to stop and I banished the brother from the room. And he left, laughing the whole time. I told Mike that our session was over, picked up my things, and I left the house to go sit in my car until the mother returned. I had to quiet myself down. My adrenaline was racing throughout my body. I was starting to hyperventilate. When she returned with her daughter, I told her what had happened and that it was necessary for me to write an incident report to turn into administration, which I did. I did not return to work with Mike again. The school district had to find someone else for that assignment. I never checked back to see if they did. But I did often think about Mike and his future in that home with that brother. I think Mike felt he needed to challenge his brother's behavior because in his mind, he had become the alpha male and was protecting his territory, me, his teacher. There have been times I felt guilty or abandoning Mike, angry and sad at his mother for leaving that night, furious at his brother and his behavior, especially when he later started calling my home and telling Nick that he couldn't and shouldn't trust his wife because she was having an affair with him. As the years went by, I often wondered what I could have done if I had already been teaching for a decade or more and had more experience. And then I finally learned to emotionally detach from it and to chalk it up to a learning experience. But I never did find love for his brother in that complicated place. Sadness, dislike, regret, and I even felt sorry for him, but never love. As Nick and I looked back over these experiences where we had been unsuccessful in connecting in a loving way and be able to sustain it, we noticed some commonalities. 4. 1, we were each early in our career and still had a lot to learn. 2, we were in positions where we did not have much administrative support or intervention. 3, we had accepted positions that others knew not to take. And 4, we both felt tired and overworked. Now we have learned some coping skills to use when we find ourselves in complicated places where it's difficult to find the love and to hold it inside. And these that we've learned have nothing to do with the person. These are all about ourselves. 4 things we've learned. 1, set and maintain boundaries. 2, be discerning about who and what you engage with. 3, make sure that you're not getting too tired. Take care of yourself. 4, make sure you have support systems. And if you can no longer find the love for that complicated person, remind yourself of our first UU principle, the inherent worth and dignity of each person. Or also, as I have learned in studying the Course in Miracles, that everyone is a loving child of God, whether they show it or not. So good luck to you as you navigate life through the complicated places. Our closing hymn is 1053, How Could Anyone? It's from the teal hymnal, not the big one, but the soft. It will be projected on the screen behind me. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 1053, How Could Anyone? Our sermon today focused on our experiences in a teaching situation. However, if any of you have ever tried to navigate a relationship with someone addicted to alcohol or drugs, or someone getting over an abusive relationship, or someone who grew up in a dysfunctional home, you know that it can also be a place that is complicated. And you may find that it is difficult to find that love and to hold on to it. Our closing words today, instead of a benediction, come from Christy Camden, a former substance abuse peer specialist. She writes, "I'm hard to love. I'm hard to get to know. I don't trust easy. I err on the side of caution. I watch and listen, and if I see or hear something that looks like betrayal, I'm done. And I rarely reassess the situation. But when I do let you in, when I do believe that you're safe, I love totally and completely. I think that's why I'm so cautious. There was a time that I let anyone in, and I let a monster in my heart, and I was betrayed more than I should have. So now I keep my circle small. I don't have but few friends. Most of those I hang out with, I consider associates. I will laugh and hang out with you. I will help you out if it's needed, but you'll never be trusted with any part of me. I won't be rude, but I do have limits. Because I know I'm hard to love. I definitely treat you so that you are always grateful, not to me or for me, but because I love and trust you. Namaste, amen, and blessed be. Thank you for listening. Oh, it's yours, sorry.
Thank you for listening to our experiences and what we learned from them. We will have 10 to 15 minutes now for sharing any thoughts on today's topic. You may also share any complicated places or people that caused you to struggle finding love. Be aware this will be included on the video that will be posted.
Come forward and use this mic.
Step close to the mic and speak directly into it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think this is a time that I asked if I could come up. I consider myself now a member of this church. And a while back, I was told, I didn't know who it was. It was Tinka now. It was Tinka came up to me and said, "Are you a member of this church?" And I said, "No." She said, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I came to this church.
That wasn't me.
And I'm calling this person a bad person that did this, but I came to this church to be, I want to be accepted and came from God. I'll bet you guys had trouble with homeless people coming in here, drinking the water and stuff, but I just want to say that. I feel like people recognize my faces. I know some people's faces here. I spent 2 or 3, I offered this church $2 or $3. And, from a business standpoint, I would want to get $2 or $3 worth of a good back. And, and 2 weeks ago, somebody said, "Are you hungry?" I said, "Yeah." I'll say, "Okay, I'll fix you a ham sandwich." And Avery fixed me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich today. And I've been accepted by some people here. Nick has accepted me. Grace has accepted me. And Avery has accepted me. I feel a member here now. Thank you. I'd like to, be a part of this. I'd like to contribute and be something to this church. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. I was in the parish hall. I remember when that happened. That actually was Linda, and we had finished our fellowship time and we were getting ready to have a congregational meeting where only members could come in and vote. So, and I remember her asking you, so that's what that was about. It wasn't during a church service or anything. It was during a business part of the church events. Anyone else?
Bill?
This one is, I guess, concentrating on Mike's brother. who you told us about. There's a thing that happens every now and then when you see really bad things happening on the news or whatever. You kind of want the problem child to say, what you need is a few years in basically a minimum to medium prison facility with some decent counseling being offered, which you'll take the counseling at first just to get out of your cell. But there's this desire we have sometimes to see problem people like that really rattled by 4 small walls and some people roughing them up the way they rough up other people because they scare us. Yeah. Mike's brother's the kind of guy that'll pop off and nail you. He's already pre-wired for violence. I don't believe very good things about him at all. And he was dysfunctional and managed to slide right through the barriers that they had during what he was doing. And one of the toughest things that's got to happen to people who work with special needs kids like you is that at a certain point you look at special needs kids, or you look at somebody who basically makes you feel afraid or angry because of their behavior, and you don't, at a certain point, the whole, oh, they need counseling thing, that shorts out. And all of a sudden, instead of, sort of plugging in something a little more warm and fuzzy like the last hymn we have, it's like, you bleep, I hope you get pummeled unmercifully in prison until you learn how not to scare the bleep out of me and get back to at least living a decent life by the time you're 30 plus and stop being such a jerk. And I thank you guys for catching so many people that we would have written off ordinarily. Well, there's humans overdo things, and I'm sure that there are people that scare or anger me that could be come at kindly. And the fact that there's someone out there to do that it's a heck of a good thing. They keep saying that, oh, you need people should be getting a degree in something that is something that society needs, engineer or something like that. I would say that people who can reach some of these special needs people and move them to the point where they're eventually functional-ish, that shouldn't be forgotten. And thank you for that.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you both, first of all, for both of these sermons. I think they were great. There's a story when I'm looking for what's good and lovable in people that's always comes to my mind that the Buddha taught. The Buddha said that what's good and lovable in people is like fresh, drinkable water. And some people are like freshwater streams, and it is really easy to just get that fresh water and drink, and that's wonderful. And there are some people who are like mossy lakes, and you got to scoop away a little bit of that moss to get to that water, that fresh water underneath. And then there are some people who are like a muddy puddle in an elephant's footstep. And you've got to bend down and you got to scoop up the water and you got to sit and you got to wait and allow things to settle in order to get that drinkable water. But if you're thirsty, a thirsty person who's dying of thirst is going to do that. They're not going to care how it looks that I'm scooping down into this elephant footprint. They're not going to matter that maybe there's a little bit of this or that in the water. I need the water, and that we need to be looking for what's lovable and what's good in people, like somebody who is dying of thirst. And I think your students were really lucky that you two were so thirsty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Pat's already in. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah.
Except Adam left this, Adam Paul first. I left the microphone at the top of my head. Good morning, I'm Pat Kawunder. For 24 years, I was a psychologist at Patton State Hospital. We dealt with people who were labeled criminally insane. Besides having a major psychotic disorder, schizophrenia or bipolar, or severe depression, they also had committed a crime. The modal crime, the most people had murdered somebody, often somebody they loved. It was challenging. And there were people, I have trouble with a real psychopath giving them love. I think it's wrong. I think you're just gonna get manipulated. But other than that, I was pretty good. And I had tons of role models, just excellent staff that had all these strategies for reaching the real person. But it is a gift, and I want to thank you guys because it is hard.
It is.
And you learn so much about yourself, your limits, what makes you just go, "Ah!" Thanks for listening. Can I make an announcement?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
know this is totally irrelevant, but in a Friday night, we had a drum circle at my house. Linda Van Voorhees is an expert drummer and she's got like 30 drums and everybody's invited to these. It was the solstice full moon and it rose up over it was just gorgeous. Anyway, next month, stay tuned and please come. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And Pat, I announced that actually at the beginning and told people, but I also said that you were talking about possibly having pool parties at your house too. So and before you, also Pat, I don't know if you, I know you came in a little late. I don't know if you heard, we had set up 4 things that we had learned as a result of these. Okay, all right. Because the support systems was number 4 and that was great.
Hi, okay, great. First I want to say thank you. It's a very watering and nurturing message. I really appreciate that. I grew up as a Christian. I would even say I would call myself a Christian before even knowing what that meant. And in a way, I'm thankful that I'm still learning to this day what that means. It's a breath of fresh air for me to hear a message where the speakers are vulnerable and open and willing to admit that just like myself and the rest of us, we're not perfect people. I think, at least for me, my Christian faith, that is something my God, my higher power, makes my higher power so special because my higher power loves me, all parts of me.
Mhm.
And it was something I recently learned, working the 12 steps, is my higher power. Because my higher power loves me, these teaching moments, as you guys shared, are just that. They're not what I used to make them out as a pivoting point, a flag waving, I'm such a terrible person. Ignore all the good things I've ever done. Look, this is proof. No, it's the opposite. It's saying, because I'm willing, because you guys were willing, is my opinion anyways, to grow and learn from that experience, my higher power says that just shows how beautiful you are. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And what was your name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, I want to give a shout out to 12-step programs. Nick and I both are longtime members of 12-step. He has 37 years of sobriety, and I had 37 years in Al-Anon. And both of us continue with that as a practice. It's life-changing, life-affirming and life-changing.
Grace.
Now, great.
Thank you for your service. One thing I'd like to say is, as many faults as our school system has, I'm still impressed by the fact that a lot of these districts put so much time and emphasis into trying to help students who cannot be in a normal classroom. And, you know, going so far as to having a teacher go into the home to educate, you know, children who might not make it in a regular classroom is very impressive to me. So I'd like to say that first. And the next thing is, Tinka, once you said something about how teachers have to not get emotionally attached to students.
Yeah, I said that in the previous sermon about the first part one.
Right. And teaching is a profession. And I was wondering how you navigate caring for your students and doing your job at the same time.
Well, I will share with you that I am a failure at completely detaching emotionally from my students. What I was successful, I think, for the most part, most of the time, was detaching from, I don't want to put it, detaching from the negative aspects of the students. I, for the most part, was able to find that love, and I was able to see them as, and I was able to separate the child that they are from whatever the diagnosis or whatever, you know, the behaviors are, that got laid over on top of. And I will tell you that I would not have been able to last for almost 40 years teaching special needs students if I wasn't able to find and hold and care for that sort of child of God, you know, that spark of love or whatever that was inside of them while I was dealing with all of this other kinds of stuff. And I feel that you do have to care about your students. I feel that you have to care about their progress, how emotionally, how they're feeling, what they're thinking about themselves, you know, and helping them cope with how the outside world views them and how what the outside world puts on them.
I agree with all of that. I do. My career was not as long as Tinka's, but I avail myself of her as a resource as well as others in how to deal with different problems as they came up, you know, and was able to see the problem and look for a solution rather than blaming the child for being who they are. Pat Kowunder. What's your name, Pat?
Hi, I'm Pat Kowunder again. I haven't changed. For me, I totally agree. I couldn't work with somebody if I didn't care about them. But what I learned to do was make sure I wasn't getting my needs met in this relationship. When teachers or psychologists or doctors or anybody takes advantage, like gets into a sexual relationship or is getting love needs met, that's really wrong because you're in a position of authority and you're manipulating. And so that was for me the rule. And sometimes that was hard to follow.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah, I want to say that during the 12 to 15 years that I was just specifically teaching severely emotionally disturbed children, many who had other handicaps as well. I sat down with the director of our special ed and wrote up a grant to the state. And part of that grant was to have a school psychologist that worked specifically with the SED, severely emotionally disturbed teachers, and be there for the students as well, but that there was a component that was a support for us when we were confronted with things that, we were not sure how to handle, that we could go to the psychologist. And then also, we also incorporated a counselor who worked with the students, but also the counselor and I put together 6-week classes for family members, for parents, teaching them how to handle these students. And because there were many problems and behaviors that the child had that actually came from the way they were being parented. And it escalated at times as a result of that. So that's, again, goes to that support system. Find it. If it's not there, try to build it. We wound up, because the school wasn't funded for it, so we wound up writing a grant to the state and got extra money to do that. So yeah, that's very important. Okay, yes, online. Who?
Hello?
Ariel, can you unmute?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, hi. So, my name is Ariel. I am a teacher in the Riverside City District, and I teach art, but I have to go to different schools in the district. Can you hear me?
I'm hearing your voice, but it's sort of garbled, or I'm having a hard time understanding what you said.
Give me a second.
So I don't know if you need to get closer to your mic or.
Is this a little better?
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, hi, my name is Ariel, and I want to thank you guys for sharing your experiences. I was reminded today that we would have service, as time is not something that I can really juggle. Time tends to get away from me, but I felt necessary to kind of tune in on your guys' Zoom call. And the thing is, I teach as well, so I feel like today's meeting actually is spot on for me. And I do work with kids of all different ranges, including those who are differently able. So, what I just wanted to kind of share is that when you meet like whoever in your life, you tend to open a sort of communication with them. And especially for these kids, you're not just talking to them, but you're also kind of connecting with them and who they know. So, they know their parents, they know their family, they know other kids. And you essentially learn to balance your own needs as well as their needs. And that could be so difficult. But I guess what I want to leave you guys with is that I appreciate you guys having this meeting and talking about it, especially since we're in summer and many teachers are either on vacation or trying to refill their cup in order to get their own needs met and, kind of like regenerate, if you will. But that's all.
Thank you for sharing.
Anyone else?
Anyone else? Did you hear any of it at all? Okay, and I guess This concludes our discussion, and we will meet you out in the parish hall for fellowship. Thank you, everybody online and everyone here in the sanctuary.
Thank you.
Thank you.